CNC capability doesn't take a lot of floor space, and in fact now there's a handheld solution for it. Let's learn more. Back at AWFS 2017 in the Shaper booth to take a look at one of the most innovative machines I've ever seen, the Origin. And we're here with Joe Havenstreit, who's going to tell us more about it. Joe, share some information with us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Well, as Chris mentioned, our company is Shaper. Product is Origin. Shaper Origin is the world's first handheld CNC machine. If you've ever wanted the capabilities of CNC machining in your shop or CNC router in your shop, but maybe haven't yet taken the step to make the massive capital investment, or didn't want to take up the shop space, or frankly just didn't want to kind of tackle the technical challenge of becoming an expert at CNC, you might really be interested in what we have to offer. So this is a handheld portable CNC machine. It uses computer vision and some locating technology. I'll kind of explain that in a second. Very simply, we have a camera that's looking down at our workpiece. It's mounted here and looking down, and it works in conjunction with some special tape we call Shaper tape. These are special markers that you lay down on your workpiece. You don't have to be very careful about how you lay it down. You can be, put them down in a random order. The important thing is that if the camera can see those markers, the tool knows where it is in 3D space and knows where it is relative to the workpiece and for what you want to cut. Now, what can we do with this? Why is that important? Well, it's really important to understand where the tool is compared to what you're working on, because with that information, if you're trying to make a cut, we can actually use onboard motors to make movements to the router to compensate for your hand movement and to make your cut on track every time.
So the onboard computer in the router is compensating for your inaccuracy if you're steering off course, or it knows where it needs to be to make a cutout that you're making.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
So essentially, it looks like a plunge router, but it's directing its own X, Y, and Z cuts based on whatever file you've imported into it.
That's right. And we use the common question is, well, what kind of file do we bring in? It's very simple. We use 2D vector files. We work all the time with SVGs. We're CAD agnostic. You can bring this in from any programs you normally use, things like Adobe Illustrator, Corel Draw, many different programs we don't really specify. And you can load it onto the tool once you have an outline design. You can load it on either with a USB. We've got a USB drive in the side, or the tool itself is Wi-Fi and cloud connected. So you can actually wirelessly send files to the tool itself. So we're trying to make it very easy to get files on the board the tool. We also have functions on the tool if you don't want to learn CAD at all, and if you don't want to become an expert at designing things, but you know that you want to make things that other people have made. So for example, any of the projects that you see here, any of the projects you see in our videos, we're going to have available on a kind of back end that we call Shaper Hub. It's a repository where you'll be able to download files and eventually share files that you're creating with other people. So that's very powerful. We also have one final way that you might be able to create on the tool. We have what we call on-tool CAD, where we can, for at this point, relatively basic shapes, but things like circles, squares. If you can define a shape using an on-tool pen tool, where you can create a shape yourself and do that directly on the tool. No computer, no CAD required. Just doing it directly on the tool and make the cut.
Joe, what about some of the range of capability in terms of the kinds of cuts you can make? I mean, can you make joinery on this? Can you make cutouts? What sorts of things can it do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of what we've been doing, and a lot of what you might be familiar with for CNC operations, is sheet goods. So of course, we could do that all day long, and we do that all day long. But I think where things get really interesting, because of the portable and lightweight nature of the machine and the ability to really reconfigure it in all sorts of ways, it really opens up the possibility for moving beyond the sheet. So we do a lot of work with hardwoods, real actual projects that you might be interested in doing. So for example, we've been doing a lot of kind of interesting demos with mortise and tenoning. These are some shapes you might be familiar with. These were created and implemented directly on the tool, and I'll show you how we were able to do that in a second. A lot of it comes down to just kind of thinking about what you're trying to do and coming up with some creative fixturing to do it. So let me show you one example.
Sure.
This is a fixture that one of our guys built in the shop. By the way, the entire fixture was built with Shaper Origin, and well, these plans we can make available on Shaper Hub, get you up and running. But by being able to clamp or, you know, register any kind of material that you're doing here, if you don't mind just holding that for a second. If we clamp this in place, we can do this feature operation for doing this this tenon right here, and then of course it'd be relatively easy to figure out how to do the mating mortise into the bottom of a table or something like that.
Provided there's a platform and a way to clamp the workpiece underneath it, you can use the Origin to do those deeper cuts like you'd need for tenons, for excavating tenon, or manufacturing tenons or mortises.
Absolutely.
As long as you can clamp it, you can cut it.
Absolutely. Yeah, the range of travel for the Z-axis on Origin is 45 millimeters. It's like about 1 3/4 inches, so you can actually do relatively deep cuts. But the really interesting kind of technique that we've developed, and it's evident in some of our videos, actually one video right there of this guitar being made out of hardwood, is if you think about it like making your own template instead of pre-making a mechanical template. So if you route your first groove, let's say up to a 1/2 inch deep, using Origin and do that very accurately, you can then quickly cut away the waste materials, let's say with a jigsaw or just a handsaw or whatever. And then you can pull out your 3 horsepower, you know, router with a follower bit and go for the final cut.
You've got an absolute precision template to work from because it's been made by Origin.
That's right, and you know, not only you could literally make templates, but if you don't want to clutter up your shop space with those templates, the workpiece itself becomes the template.
Sure. Now with Origin, you're supplying the router on the machine as one component of the machine. This is not something, you don't put your own trim router in there. You've got the trim router.
Correct. Yeah, maybe we could put this down and I could show this a bit. Yeah, so this is actually the production version. This one rolled off our production line. This is one from our engineering validation test build. So we ship with our own trim router. It's been designed and developed to our specifications by a really high quality and competent manufacturer. It has been designed specifically to work with Origin, so it does ship with Origin. We decided to go down the path of supplying our own spindle because we couldn't rely on, if we're sort of trying to create this precision cutting device, but we didn't know what was being inserted in there, and so maybe just some terrible quality spindle. Ultimately that reflects on the cuts that you're trying to make. So it's we just decided to kind of make that experience as good as possible. So it's very easy, as you see, pull it out, we can change the cutter, insert it back in, plug it back in. A lot of work has been done to make that as easy and smooth as possible, and to have ultimately at the end of the day just one cord that goes to the wall. So at the end of the day, when you're done with this, unplug, wind up the cord, take it and go with you.
And you've got dust collection capability built into the system as well?
Correct.
Is Origin available now?
Origin is available for pre-order now. It's not available for immediate fulfillment. So we've, last fall we started a pre-order. We sold out of our batch 1 and we're going to start delivering that this fall. This came off of our actual production line. Actually the one that we were doing some demonstrations with, this is an earlier pre-production unit. So you may notice that it looks a little bit different. This is actually what's going to be shipping. We're going to be fulfilling all those batch 1 pre-orders starting this fall, and then we move into batch 2 fulfillment. So people who pre-order today, we're going to be starting delivery of that in early 2018.
And what is the price point of Origin?
Yeah, price point is eventually when we're When it's available at full retail, it's going to be $2,100, but pre-order is currently $16.99.
Now there's so much more information that can be gathered here, far more than we can fit into this video. What's your website so that our viewers can go and take a look at these videos to learn more?
Yeah, thanks. It's shapertools.com. You can learn all sorts of things about it. We have a lot of frequently asked questions, section for frequently asked questions. We have a blog that we keep up to date with all the latest and greatest of what's going on the production line and any new news. We also have we explain a lot of the capabilities that you and I haven't been able to cover during this session. And we're very, very active in creating videos just to start giving people ideas of what they can do. So I really encourage people to check out our YouTube channel, which is also just YouTube Shaper Tools.
So super next generation CNC with a router flare to it. Joe, thanks for showing it to us, and go out and check out the website.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It's been great.